With us now to discuss, Democratic Congressman Richie Torres. His district, New York's 15th, has the highest percentage of SNAP recipients of any district in the country. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Now, I want to start with New York Governor Kathy Hochul declaring a state of emergency, saying that the state is now working to minimize some of that damage. I wonder if you have spoken to the governor and how far, as you're aware, can the state go?
Well, I know that the governor is making every conceivable effort to address hunger and food insecurity in New York, but ultimately there is no substitute for the SNAP program. Donald Trump's shutdown of SNAP is a catastrophe for America. As you noted, SNAP provides food to 42 million Americans. Almost all the SNAP benefits go to the most vulnerable Americans, families with children, Americans with disabilities, senior citizens. Children represent 40% of the recipients, senior citizens 20% of the recipients, those with disabilities 10% of the recipients. And so Donald Trump is effectively holding 42 million Americans hostage. He's treating hunger and food insecurity as bargaining chips, as leverage in his sick political game of extortion. That to me is disgraceful, and he is crossing a line that should never be crossed.
It's notable, Congressman, that Republicans are accusing Democrats of exactly what you just said, holding 42 million people hostage. I want to play for you an exchange from Majority Leader John Thune in the Senate. He was responding to Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico, who is trying to pass new legislation directing the Department of Agriculture to use those contingency funds the judge is going to weigh in on to keep SNAP funded. Here is Senator Thune.
SNAP recipients shouldn't go without food. People should be getting paid in this country. And we've tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times. This isn't a political game. These are real people's lives that we're talking about. And you all have just figured out, 29 days in, that, oh, there might be some consequences.
So you described it as President Trump's shutdown of SNAP. Republicans are criticizing this as a Democratic shutdown. I wonder how much responsibility you think your party should take for SNAP money running out.
Well, first of all, Republicans control the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. So the party that wields the power bears the responsibility. And keep in mind, Donald Trump is claiming that SNAP has run out of funding and that there's nothing he can do to fill that gap. Donald Trump is lying to the American people, and here's why. First, there is a $5 billion multi-year contingency fund for SNAP. The president can easily use those funds to sustain the SNAP program. Second, there's a much larger Section 32 fund that contains $23 billion. He could easily use those funds to sustain the SNAP program. Third, the Trump administration has generated upward of $100 billion in tariff revenues. He could easily use those tariff revenues to sustain the SNAP program. So let's be clear, the shutdown of SNAP is not an inevitability. It is a choice made by Donald Trump himself.
In your district, we ran the numbers, and there's something like 270,000 residents that are receiving SNAP benefits, compared to less than 1% of that number, some 2,500 that are getting enhanced ACA tax credits, which are at the core of Democratic demands to reopen the government. As you said, Republicans control the White House in both chambers, but they do need 60 votes in the Senate, and they do need Democratic support to reopen the government. Just based on those numbers, do you think it's worth prolonging the shutdown if it winds up hurting more of your constituents? There are far more on SNAP than there are receiving these expanded subsidies of ACA.
Well, first of all, there are far more than 2,500 people who benefit from the enhanced premium tax credits. In New York State, there are 1.7 million people on the essential plan, which is primarily funded by those enhanced premium tax credits. But if Democrats had done nothing and stood by idly, 24 million Americans would have seen their premiums more than double, rising by an average of 114%. Right? A total of 4 million people would lose health care, and when you combine it with the Medicaid cuts, it's 14 million people losing health care. Hospitals everywhere in America, including the Bronx, would lose $30 billion and more than 300,000 jobs. And so Democrats are not asking for new spending programs. We're asking to preserve the tax credits that provide health care to 24 million Americans. We're asking to preserve SNAP, which provides food to 42 million Americans. We're asking to preserve WIC, which provides nutritional assistance to 7 million women, infants, and children. We're asking for the preservation of the social safety net on which the most vulnerable Americans depend.